some math problems with Amos the Math Guy this evening. That's part of what I'm going to be working on here. Today I want to talk about counting to calculus and solving math problems. So if you're watching this right now, I want to ask, what are the most difficult math concepts that your students are struggling with? Whether you're homeschooling or you have a private school, what are some of the concepts that your students are struggling with? Let me start by saying that when you do mathematics, whenever you encounter a topic, I want to encourage you to ask the question, what are the prerequisites for the topic that you're learning? So this is my setup outside here. I'm just recording a few videos on math history, and actually we could talk about that as well. But what are some of your math questions? Please feel free to leave them in the comment section. When I think of math history from counting to calculus, I think that the first module of counting to calculus has to do with understanding whole numbers, integers, let's just say fractions, decimals, percents, ratios, and proportions. We have whole numbers, integers, fractions, decimals, percents, ratios, and proportions. If you understand those very well, then you can move on to or into Algebra 1. But the thing about mathematics is that it's not based on a person's age or grade level. It's based on how well do I have the prerequisites for the current topic that I'm working on. So we always have to think of mathematics in that regard. By the way, I made a video earlier today talking about Journey Through Genius. If you have not read this book, I want to encourage you to check it out. Journey Through Genius tells the story of mathematics, pretty much from counting to calculus. It tells the story. So whenever you're doing a math topic, you always want to ask, what is the prerequisite? So let's do that for a few topics, like fractions. How do you know how to add fractions well? If you don't know how to add fractions of unlike denominators, what you need to do is go back to prime factorization, go back to your understanding of prime numbers. So if you don't know how to work with fractions, go and work on prime numbers. That's always going to be important. If you have any questions on any math concept, please feel free to share in the comment section and we can tackle it. Otherwise, we're going to be doing more of these live streams from time to time. So we have fractions. The prerequisites for fractions would be prime numbers and prime factorization. If you don't know prime numbers or prime factorization, then go back to that. So what are prime numbers? Prime numbers are numbers that are only divisible by themselves and 1. Prime numbers are numbers that can only be divisible by themselves and 1. If you understand what prime numbers are, then you'll understand what prime factorization involves. So 28, what is the prime factorization of 28? The prime factorization of 28 involves taking 28 and breaking it down into the prime numbers that make up 28. What are those numbers? Those are 2 times 2 times 7. 2 times 2 times 7 is the prime factorization of 28. What's the prime factorization of 9? The prime factorization of 9 is 3 times 3, right? So the prime factorization of 9 is 3 times 3. So we are looking at different kinds of math problems and we're answering math questions that people have. If you have any math questions from counting to calculus, feel free to put it in the comment section and I'll be able to work on that. Parents, or if you have kids and you're trying to help your kids do better in math, I want to encourage you to make sure you always focus on mastery. How well can you help your children to master the concept, the prerequisites of what they're learning? Okay? So I will be back on a live stream again a few evenings during the week, but then also on the weekend. Let me know if you have any questions you want me to tackle. These are some of my favorite mathematicians and physicists, by the way, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions on any of these people or anything on math history. Again, Journey Through Genius, if you haven't read this book, please check it out. At least check out the summary if you don't want to read the whole book, but look at the history. We talk a lot about mathematics, but we never talk about the people behind the concepts. This is going to be very critical in the age of AI. By the way, if you don't mind, let me just make a quick comment about mathematics and AI. Do you know that Google, when we had just Google, we could find many textbooks to solve math problems and show students how to do the problems, right? So it's very important that we teach our students how to look at examples and how to master concepts based on the examples. That's very critical. Examples will show you the pattern. And do you know that AI is actually pretty much just a pattern recognition machine? AI is a pattern recognition machine that just does it very fast. That's all that AI is. But what is mathematics though? Mathematics is about pattern recognition, right? Mathematics is about pattern recognition. How well are we teaching students to master patterns, right? Thank you to those who have commented, and I appreciate your comments, questions. Again, if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, objections, let me know. Okay, any questions, thoughts, comments, objections? I see. I love Pet7. Thank you for coming on the live stream. Do you have any questions on math or science that you want us to tackle? Let us know. I believe that we can raise top mathematicians and scientists when we start teaching from a master-based approach. So earlier in the video, I started talking about prime factorization. That is probably the most important topic in all of mathematics in the pre-algebra realm, because if you know how to prime factorize a number, then you will know how to add fractions better. You will know how to find the lowest common denominator. Okay, let's talk about one more concept for tonight. Equations. How do we work with equations? If you want to work with equations effectively, you have to understand the properties of real numbers. What are the properties of real numbers? If you email amosthemathguy@gmail.com, I will send you my free copy of my book, Tools for Master Mathematics, amosthemathguy@gmail.com. If you email amosthemathguy@gmail.com, I'll send you that resource, and you can go to the page that has the properties of real numbers. The properties of real numbers are very important when you're solving equations, because when you're solving an equation, you're trying to isolate a variable. And if you're trying to isolate a variable, you need to know what to do to get rid of everything around the variable. So let's talk about equations in our live stream. We're going to talk about equations. We're going to talk about pre-algebra concepts. But we are teaching math from counting to calculus over the next 30 to 45 days. Let's just learn everything that people will need to know from counting to calculus. If you don't have any questions for tonight, I will be back. I'll get a whiteboard and we'll do some math problems over the next few days. I look forward to working on this channel to help more people to learn mathematics from counting to calculus. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And thanks again for joining me briefly tonight. I will be talking more about the history of mathematics, how to be good at math, and how to help your children become exceptional and phenomenal at mathematics. This is Counting to Calculus, and my name is Amos Tarfa. Take care and have a blessed night.